right, good evening. Welcome to the Concord Township Zoning Commission meeting of Tuesday, May the 3rd. We're going to begin with a call to order. Heather, if you could please.
Mr. Schindler?
Present.
Mr. Lingenfelter?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Ms. Garkar? Here. And Mr. Eiffelise?
Here. Thank you. Let the record show all present. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes from April the 5th, 2022. Hiram isn't here this evening. Who is our member that expertly reads all the minutes.
Every sentence.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes from April 5th, 2022 as written.
I second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes stand approved. Correspondence is next on our agenda. Any members have any correspondence to announce? Frank?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Frank? Ashley?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing.
Andy? Rich?
I actually had
Yeah.
an email from a gentleman concerned, has expressed previous concerns about an abandoned house in Concord. Heather's working on it, as is Morgan McIntosh, so I did reply, and Heather also was involved and took care of it, so that was the only thing I had.
Very good. I have received no correspondence since our last meeting as well. So we'll move on along quickly here to public participation. So any member of the public that wishes to address the board or any on the phone, I'm not sure, either for items on the agenda or anything in general that you wish to bring before the zoning commission. Going once? 3 times. Okay, we'll close public participation. Thank you very much. We'll begin our agenda on new business. Item number 1, we have a site plan review application number 51 submitted by Deming Enterprises, Inc. for a new office and manufacturing building for the Stephen Douglas Corporation to be located at 7750 Discovery Lane, also known as current parcel number 08-A-020-A-00-017-0. I would invite the applicant or its representative to come to the podium. Please provide your name and address for the record and tell us about your project.
It's Barry Deming. My address is 4600 Riverwood Drive in Madison. We are the general contractor. The plans you have should show the new facility that we're building for Stephen Douglas over on Discovery. It's basically a 2-story office building that's attached to a 56,000 square foot shop facility with bridge cranes. It's all production, and it sits on 20 acres, 19 acres on Discovery.
Anything else you wish to describe about the project, the business?
The business, again, they're a manufacturing facility that I should probably let the owner describe better than
Please.
me what he does.
So my name's Steve Beliveau. I'm the owner and president and CEO of Stephen Douglas Corp. We're a company that manufactures industrial equipment that's used in factory automation. So most factories consist of specialized machinery that they use to make their parts. Our company designs and builds that type of equipment. We are currently located in Newberry, Ohio. We have about a 30,000 square foot facility, which we've outgrown, and made the decision, rather than to try to expand our operations there, to move to a new facility here in Concord. And we've been in business for 24 years, hopefully another 24 plus. But we're excited about the project. We think we're going to be building a really nice facility that will complement the community here and provide for, currently have 60 employees that will be moving into Concord to work here. We are participating in the JED, so we'll be paying local income tax. And, you know, look forward to, you know, being part of the community and, you know, running our business here.
Very good, very good. Let me move to Heather, perhaps an overview of staff comments before we come to the members, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
Anything of significance that we'll bring to the attention of the board? I know we have the staff comments and recommendations along with the other agencies.
Right, so, and the applicant and their team also has gotten a chance to, they have a copy of the staff report and can see the recommendation. I would point out that it is a rather large site, about 19 acres. They're not clear cutting the 19 acres, they're disturbing less than 6 acres on the site. There are some wetlands and streams, they're avoiding most of those. They are working through the permitting process to impact a few of those wetlands behind the building so they can have better access around there. So that is in progress. Everything looks pretty good from a zoning perspective. They are looking at seeking a variance for some of their soffit lighting on the exterior of the building.
Yes.
So that will, you'll note that that was one of the conditions that they will need to get. So they're scheduled in front of the BZA later this month. It's downward lighting. It accents the building. It looks fairly nice. There'll be 2 access points to the site. One for their guests and their employees, and that's the southern access point on Discovery, and then further to the north, they're having a separate truck access that'll come behind the building where their loading docks are located, and they also have their dumpster enclosure back there. So you have their landscape plan in front of you. It meets all of the landscaping requirements. That's probably the highlight.
Thank you, Heather. Can you describe the variance for the lighting?
Yeah, sure. So we have maximum heights for any building-mounted lighting. It's set at no higher than 14 feet.
Right.
Something that's been on the books for quite some time. This is the 2-story office portion of the building where there's a soffit, and they have recessed lights that are going to be projected down, and according to the architect, only come out about less than 12 feet from the building wall itself. So it's not going to spill over onto the lot lines or anything like that. But the way that the zoning resolution is currently written, being the fact that they are mounted at approximately 27 feet, at a height of 27 feet on the building rather than the 14 feet, it would require a variance.
Right. So strictly the height,
Yes, yes.
even though it's shining down.
Correct.
Okay.
Might be something that we might need to look at from
Let's
an
add that
amendment
to our
perspective, yes.
to our list.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Heather. In the comments, as you noted, the wetlands approval is in process. I did not understand the one on page 6. Heather, concerned about the stormwater basin into the existing roadway ditch. On page 6, there's a bullet.
Oh, there's a comment from the stormwater management.
Oh, is that from them?
Yes, that was something that the Lake County Stormwater had mentioned.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So you're just repeating
Their
that.
engineer will have to work with, probably revise that or to somehow eliminate their concern, and that was not my comment, so I don't have any specifics on that.
Okay.
Chime in on that.
Yeah, please.
Because they've already talked, Steve from Stormwater and our engineer, and they've already resolved that. The issue was a flow issue as far as how fast the water would make it to that spot. So
Yes.
they've revised the retention pond and the outlet structure to that to slow that water to whatever rate they were looking for. And those plans have already been revised and resubmitted to the stormwater people.
Very good. Very good.
So that
Okay.
should be rectified.
Very good. Well, I like, if I can start a comment, I like the orientation of the building. I like the entrance, the way you have it situated, coming straight on from Capitol, and the entrance around the back. So you've got the office building around the front for that exposure. So I like the way it's oriented and up front, and to avoid, well, obviously, avoid the cliff in the back.
Right.
In the back. So, okay, thank you. Let me go to our members for questions and or comments for the applicant. Frank?
Yes, I have a few. Under staff recommendation, including conditions. The item 2, it says about the removal of the canopy. Is this something that falls either under the variance they're requesting to take care of that?
Well, I think you're looking at
That's
the
classic.
next application staff report. You're looking at number 51.
Oh, righty, that's I beg your pardon, I pulled the wrong one.
This is why we need a larger table up here.
Disregard. Sorry, Steve.
Well, while Frank is getting reoriented, Ashley, any comments? You had a chance to take a look?
No comments from me.
Very good. Andy?
Nothing really, other than as long as you're good with complying with the various points that were brought up in the staff report, I'm good with everything.
Thanks, Andy. Rich, I can move to you.
I would only say that I'm familiar with the type of work that they do. It's clean, it's creative, it's high-tech, and I see this as a great addition to Concord.
I'll ditto that comment. Thank you, Rich. I'll go back to my left.
No, I didn't have anything, really. And I concur with Rich, with Steve, because he happens to be one of my clients. So, and they do top-notch work, really. Very classy. So, no questions.
I will just close. I kind of answered my original question, but I think as Rich had just mentioned, and maybe on behalf of the board and on behalf of the township, this is an impressive project. This is an impressive company that I know of, read of, coming to Concord and Lake County. So I guess congratulations is in order, and best wishes for continued success. Doesn't mean we don't approve it. It's still a vote. But it's just a comment, just my comment. But anyhow, it's an impressive addition here, and this quality of industry, light industry, that and the location is very well suited to it, I believe. So, with that, we just want to look around. Is any other questions or comments from the board here? Anything else you wish to add?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We covered most everything.
Very good. Well, let me move on to a call for a vote. A motion, I should say.
Make a motion to approve the application.
If we have a motion from Ashley for approval,
I'll second that motion.
second from Rich. Yes,
Mr. Chair,
Heather.
we
Yes.
may need to, can we amend that motion? I think that staff has recommended a conditional approval.
Sorry.
With the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Right.
That's why you're here.
I would
Yes,
recommend.
thank you.
Unless you want
Thank
to
you,
approve it
Heather.
as is.
Yep, yep, thank you.
It's a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Conditional.
Yeah, conditional.
Conditional.
And I'll again second that
Okay,
motion.
thank you, thank you. That sounds like we're in order. Let's do a roll call vote. Heather, please.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes,
Mr. Lingenfelter,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Farquhar,
Yes.
and Mr. Eichelise.
Yes. The record reflect unanimous approval. Congratulations. Welcome to Concord. Good luck with the project. Okay, our next item on the agenda is site plan review application number 52, submitted by Clean Classic Auto Wash for a new car wash to be located at the property on the southwest corner of Cryle Road in Gold Court, also known as current parcel number 08-A-020-00-005-0. Before I ask a representative to come to the podium to discuss this, just for point of transparency to my colleagues here, my firm provided the landscape architectural plan for this site. It is not material to my review or my comments, but just wanted to make sure there wasn't any objection from any members here. The services were provided here to the applicant on the landscape plan.
Duly noted. Appreciate the candor
Yep.
Okay with me.
and the transparency.
Very good. Okay, thank you. So let me ask a representative to come to the podium to present the project, please.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We think I already have that. That's not.
Updates?
Okay. So then I should put this away?
Both out if you'd like, you can refer back to what was originally submitted and what we have right now.
Thank you.
Change the color.
All right, so my name is Kurt Hansen, 4780 South Pine Lane in Perry. We're here tonight to present to the members of the board our design for the new Classic Clean Auto Wash to be located at the corner of Cryle Road and Gold Court. The Classic Clean Auto Wash is part of the Classic Auto Group that's located in Menor. Currently, we have the one located at 615 and Property Court there in Menor. We also currently have one in Madison under construction on Green Road. And then obviously we're working on this one as well. Based on our meetings and conversations with the township, we have redesigned the previous submitted design for the car wash to meet the guidelines set forth in the zoning guidelines for the business interchange district. I'd like to turn over to John Urbanek, who is our civil engineer, to discuss the site plan itself.
Good evening, John Urbanek, Rockaway civil engineer for the project. I believe there's two items in front of you tonight. There's a site plan review and then there's a design review for the building. And I think we were directed just to sort of lump them together into one presentation and field questions as they come up, as we proceed. So I'll introduce the site portion. Up on the screen here, we have a very simple colored rendering of the parcel showing the proposed car wash and the proposed pavement layout within that. To the east of the site, you can see the gray area is the edge of the, for context, is the limit of the Holiday Inn parking lot, and then that light tan area at the bottom right is the western limit of the hotel itself. The dark black line going around the parcel is the parcel lines on the south and the east, and on the north and the west, that's the right-of-way line. To the north is Gold Court, to the west is Cryle Road. A corner parcel fronting Cryle Road, site access is automatically going to be off the local street. So in looking at how to develop the site plan for this project, knowing what the intended programming and use was, we wanted to position that proposed drive access as far from Cryle Road as possible. The amount of traffic on Cryle Road is obviously significantly higher than that on Gold Court. So the driveway positioned far to the east on the site works to the site's benefit, because on this site we have basically four types of users coming to this site. The biggest user by far is those looking for a car wash. Persons wanting to use a vacuum stall are also going to visit the site. employees, the 3 to 5 employees at any time that will be operating the car wash will be visiting the site through that apron, and then the only other one would be the trash service. Trash service is early in the morning, once or twice a week. So that apron is essentially being positioned and designed for 90% of our use, which is the car wash. Therefore, when 90% of the users come onto the site, they're going to turn right immediately to queue up in the car wash lane. We want to make it as clear as possible to them with a sign, when they enter, car wash to the right, so they begin to queue up. Anyone going straight there, it is a two-way drive on the east side of the site, so anyone continuing due south is either going to the vacuum or an employee arriving for work, or the trash removal service, which knows exactly where they have to go. So 90% of the vehicles entering the site will immediately turn right and queue up in the 3 lanes that are shown there on the north side of the building heading west. The light tan rectangle on the screen, the north to south light tan rectangle extending north from the building, that's the pay station canopy. So the vehicles will pull under that pay station canopy. There is an automated gate there, and your vehicle, if you're a, let me take one step back. Anyone can pull in and use this car wash. You do not have to have a subscription, a monthly subscription to the classic car wash cluster of car washes. So if you pull into this and you want to pay, much like any other car wash, there's an opportunity for you to pay at that pay station. If you're a member and you have a subscription, you have a sticker in your window. It gets automatically read as you pull in. The gate goes up and you just slide through and you queue into the line that feeds that wraps around and feeds the west side of the car wash. So leading up to that pay station, it's hard to see on this drawing, but we have loosely, we don't jam them in there. We have conservatively 24 cars, 3 rows of 8 cars behind those. I believe the current code in Concord was 3 per pay lane. That's really sort of an outdated number for facilities like this. So we've bumped it up to what we feel is appropriate for the volume we expect at this site. Once someone pulls through, again, 90% of the traffic coming to the site is there for the car wash. Once they pull through that pay station, they loop around the west side of the building and they enter heading back east into the car wash. Once they exit the car wash, it's an automated car wash, belt driven. You pull onto a conveyor belt, the belt slides you forward, so it's constantly moving. Once you exit the car wash in that 50-foot strip east of the car wash, there'll be someone there to wipe off your mirrors, wipe off the glass, just hand dry with a towel, and then you will more than likely proceed left there and head back out to Gold Court. You do have the opportunity to go over and use the vacuums, but again, when I say 90, it's probably more like 98. Almost everyone comes to this because it's a convenient setup where they can get in, they can get a quality wash, and they can get out. So they're looping through and exiting back to the north, to Gold Court. Driveway position is shown where it's at to get all that traffic coming to and from our site as far from Crowd Road as possible. That's proper site engineering and traffic engineering practice. And then the one other item that I failed to mention is the other light gray rectangle on the south side of the site. That's the canopy that covers the vacuums. So I believe there's 10, I think there were 10 on this site, 10 vacuums along the southern half of the southern portion of the site that are 20 feet off the property line there. So 6 of the parking spaces are immediately adjacent to the building, and the other 4 parking spaces are down in that darker gray cluster to the southeast side of the site. I hope that paints a clear picture on how we foresee vehicles coming to and from this site, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. I think whether you want to answer questions specific to that now, or whether you want to have Kurt carry into the building design and the landscaping design, I guess we'll look for some direction from you all.
Yeah, thanks, John. Well presented. Thank you. I think maybe we'll have a break here to ask about, because they're 2 different. We'll talk about, ask questions to you about the site, and maybe I'll begin.
Sure.
So is there, obviously you have other facilities like this when you have 24 in and 24 entering and 1 going through. So what's your experience, or what's the experience in terms of it queuing even beyond that? Is
Are
it-
you saying between the pay station and the
and
entry to the car wash?
Yeah, it's one car.
The car wash is, my experience, whether it be for this client or for the dozen that we've done similar, very similar to this with this conveyor style, single tunnel, 100 to 140 foot long tunnel, is that the nature of how they're all operating, it takes care of itself. Gates go up, there's a space available for you, you slide into your position, and those three become one. You know, there's no one out there guiding traffic per se, but the three basically allow it to float into one. And then the one leads around into the building. It's really sort of, once you slow down to make your payment, it's just a sort of a constant, consistent movement right through the car wash and out the backside.
So three becoming one is an interesting concept. I'm joking there. So no, in your because I know you.
Yeah.
In your estimation, when I look at it in terms of the geometry and there's enough room to maneuver all these cars.
There is. The challenge we had on some of the earlier designs was three becoming one. We didn't give, it wasn't so much the choke down and the traffic backup, it was the maneuverability around that, around, you know, making the 180-degree turn. So we've widened up the little north-south portion on the westernmost limit, and we've widened up. And what we've also done is put rolled mountable curbs as opposed to a vertical 6-inch curb. As you're pulling through and as you're maneuvering that corner, this geometry of how far you have to continue west before you turn left, but there's a nice wide throat when you head back south and then you make your way in. It's not so much the backups and the timing of the backups we're concerned with. We want to make sure our customers can land the big SUV rounding that corner. So I don't see an issue with the timing, and I really think we've widened up that turn properly to accommodate. You know, not everyone hits the center of the drive, right? The drivers come in all sorts of capabilities, so we want to make sure we give them room around in that corner.
So from the Lake County engineers' comments, the staff comments regarding the TIS and that data that wasn't utilized here, could you comment on that?
Absolutely. There's two items from the Lake County traffic engineer. One was on what you're referring to, which is the count data. The team hired TMS, traffic engineer out of Twinsburg, to come out to the site and do I think it was a 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. or a 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. traffic count specific to this site, for which they based their recommendations. They did that. They counted traffic for that period. They come up with their average annual daily traffic, and then they come up with their build-out conditions. Tracy at the county, and I did reach out to her, and I wanted to make sure I had a conversation with her prior to this meeting, so I truly understood what her concerns were. Her concern is that, and they still don't believe that current traffic reflect pre-COVID traffic conditions. So even though we're completely different now than we were a year ago in terms of how many people are out on the road, her concern was she wanted to make sure that the build-out, the growth rate for the build-out, the 10-year build-out, what the traffic engineer does is they study current conditions, and then in this case, a 10-year build-out. She wanted to make sure the 10-year build-out was based on growth rates that were established by ODOT pre-COVID, for lack of a better term. The report originally was not. It was based on ODOT's most current build-out volume or percentages for growth. When we use the older growth build-out, the percentages for growth, it actually increased the traffic by a small amount. The traffic engineer, the consultant that we hired, then what the county is most concerned about is the intersection of Cryle and Gold. It's not the drive apron, it's Cryle and Gold. When they reran that, it was still in a level of service that's satisfactory, and we're more than happy to share. We've actually had conversations, the traffic engineers had conversations with the county to verify that. Her concern was she wanted to make sure that was understood, that the pre-COVID growth rates were used, not the most recent ODOT quarter.
Well, then we'll rely on the Lake County Engineers Office, right, Heather, to affirm that, or?
Yes, so that revised study was submitted to the county?
It was not. The revised study was performed. It wasn't documented yet, but the phone conversation was had with the county. So we will submit that to whoever needs an updated copy, to whoever needs that. Okay. And the county will need that, prior to this. Yeah. On a side note, my conversation to her said this concern of hers was more housekeeping. It was less true concern. Her true concern was alleviated when they put the center turn lane in down Cryle. So it was when Cryle was widened recently, that type of concern at this intersection, she said, made this a non-issue. But it was important that the record showed that it was reflecting the correct build-out conditions. That's what Tracy had said.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that, John. So the other comment the township had is the potential of a shared driveway.
Correct.
So can you, I mean, not knowing the traffic coming out of there, is that a potential hazard?
So again, it was and she I don't like to tell you what the county said. I would love to have the county here to tell you that, but that's not what happened. So I'm going to relay to you what was the conversation was. Any street any street that's going to have multiple drive accesses, it's in a traffic engineer's best interest to limit the amount of times an apron connects to that road. It makes for safer traffic conditions. When this original Gold Court was being developed, the county had hoped, especially down near the cul-de-sac, she said, because on cul-de-sacs you can, not only do you get driveways close to each other, then they're trying to maneuver a big round circle instead of a more traditional, two-way road. So she had hoped that there were going to be some multiple driveways. That still may be possible at the cul-de-sac, she said, but in this location, she said, the time to have accomplished what her goal was would have been when Holiday Inn went in. We reached out to Holiday Inn to at least have that conversation. As of this afternoon, there was no response from Holiday Inn. In order for it to happen, Holiday Inn would lose 6 or 8 parking spaces because of their parking. If you look back at that, the rendered site plan, that light gray area is all parking for them facing due west. See, their drive apron comes in, and most customers peel to the east and go underneath the drop-off approach. But all that gray area facing due west is parking spaces. So you can see that if it were to be there, it would cut right through their parking spaces. So my hunch is that at this stage they wouldn't be in favor of it, but we don't know because they didn't respond. Part of Tracy's concern was the proximity of the two drives. The other thing you try not to do, whether it's residential drives or commercial drives, is put them on top of each other. The farther they are apart, the more time people have to view other traffic movements and get the best idea of how to maneuver that intersection safely. I questioned her on that, and her response to me was, from a spacing standpoint, she said they're too. I don't remember what the exact words were, but she was concerned about how close they were to each other. She said, we like them far. We really prefer to have one. If there's going to be 2, we like them as far apart as possible. I said to her, the driveway spacing requirement per current ODOT standards for a 25-mile-an-hour road is a 50-foot minimum center to center. The driveways as proposed are 70-foot center to center. So I wanted to clarify with her that we well exceed the minimum. I agree with her, 100 feet is better than 50 feet, but in a condition like this where you're trying to push that driveway as far away from Crowd Road as possible, she agreed with me that the best landing spot for it is where it's at.
Okay.
So that, I think, was my understanding of her concerns relative to those 2 traffic-related items.
Okay. Well, thank you. I had questions relative to that. Heather, talking about the site plan, anything for us, the board, to comment on, especially as it relates to the common driveway issue?
Well, I guess I would be curious to hear what the Holiday Inn might say if they were to respond to you about this potential on a shared drive, just to maybe pursue that a little bit more. Because in the zoning resolution as well, we are trying to jive with the county as far as access management and to eliminate those. But so I'd be anxious to hear, what Holiday Inn would say if they responded to you. On the site plan itself, there were some proposed conditions and a few variances that were going to be required, or modifications to the site plan in order to get an approval, and then some other minor items that would need to be updated. So I don't know. if you want me to go specifically through those, or if the applicant has had, has this as well. No, the canopy over the pay stations that was discussed previously during the presentation is considered part of it has to meet the same setback as the building. So without a variance, they would have to eliminate that canopy or somehow try to change the site plan. There is a provision that requires a landscape area adjacent to the building as well. This is missing on the south side of the building, between the building wall and the paved area. That would also need a variance.
I guess Heather, would you want me, because I was going to talk about site lighting and the landscaping, and obviously that whole canopy is part of the
Oh, okay.
thing, so I don't know if you.
Yeah, oh, okay, do you want to go through all that? Yeah, we can wait and do that, yeah.
That would be fine. Go
Yeah.
ahead,
But,
John.
but we are fully aware of the fact that the plan as currently submitted, it's our understanding, requires 2 variances, which will be required if the project were to move forward as currently designed, will be required from the Board of Zoning Appeals at a meeting subsequent to this. Then that's accurate, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and those
Yeah.
are the setback for the pay station canopy from Gold Court and the landscaping buffer along the south side of the building.
Right, number 2 and number 3 under the proposed staff conditions, right. And I'm assuming that Kurt would hit the other ones as far as being able to be compliant with them, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Heather. So since we brought up the BZA, before I go to our members here, as I understand it, this received conditional use
This conditional use was
for
approved at the April
meeting.
meeting.
So my understanding is a year or so ago, right across the street, a conditional use was also approved for a car wash across the street.
Yes,
And then there was another conditional use approved at the old cryo as well.
Correct.
By the BCA. So we have 3 proposed car washes within a stone's throw that all had conditional uses granted,
yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I go back to the traffic. So if there was a car wash across the street,
And I will,
Yeah.
you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the conditional use carries with the applicant only, correct? The conditional use can't be granted to another property owner. If we were to split the conditional use and sell the property, it doesn't carry with the property. I believe it's per code. My point in saying that is 2 of the 3 are the same applicant, not us, but 2 of the 3 are the same applicant. So that applicant would have to build both to have 3. You understand what I'm saying? So I just wanted to, you had said there were 3. There's 3 with an asterisk, unless there's a choice to build both, which there very well could be, but I don't know what the feasibility of that is, or the chance of that happening is. So I just wanted to clarify the 3, that's all.
okay.
I mean,
I guess I'm the letter, so when we were getting ours, the other applicant was basically proposing to move theirs from Gold Court down to corner of Trial and Old Trial, so they were pretty much abandoning their existing site that they had gotten one on, so at that point, that one on Gold Court that they had gotten is sort of a void.
Okay.
It's still valid though.
No, but it's
Well, I
still
guess
valid,
they
it's
were-
still a valid, it's still a
Still
valid
valid.
conditional use
But
permit.
they were basically said that they're abandoning that project to move down the road.
My understanding of the reason why they did that was because that the traffic was gonna be a major problem. So that's the reason why that they decided to move it down the street. So we went from a potential use that was granted to somebody looking at a different location because they thought it was a bad idea from a traffic standpoint. But you feel for some reason that traffic's not gonna be a problem for you guys?
well, and I don't want to rehab it. I was at the meeting. I will be glad to offer my memory of what was, but I don't want to speak for them. There were concerns about that site being viable for a car wash and an ice cream facility. I think that site is 1.1 acres. The site they were moving to was probably double that size. So I do not want to speak for them. I'm simply repeating what I heard at that meeting. There was an absolute concern over the feasibility of the parking, the traffic. They basically have a double use at that site versus the single use that's proposed at our site. So to answer your question, based on my extensive experience with these conveyor type tunnel car washes, I do not, and based on the fact that the traffic engineer, solidified that with the traffic report, I am confident there's not going to be a traffic issue at this site. I can't speak for them on their concerns and why they chose. There might be financial reasons, there might be traffic reasons. I don't know, and I can't speak for them. But that's what I heard at that meeting, which was just a few weeks ago.
Okay. Thank you, John. Let me go to the members here since we're talking about the site plan and we're concentrating on traffic. Frank, comments or questions on the site plan?
Well, Heather already covered the two I was getting ready to bring up by mistake. Sorry about that. And I assume the other one where it says the staff recommends denial, and they have 4 bullet points, I assume that's going to be addressed.
Sorry, Frank, that's the design. We're just talking about the site plan. The site plan, the recommendation is a conditional approval from the staff. So we're just speaking to the site plan first.
Yeah, and I notice it says site plan review.
The design review, I think.
Yeah, the denial's on the design review.
Yeah,
So I'm asking if there's questions on the site plan?
beg your pardon.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything? Nothing? Okay. Ashley?
No, it was just the traffic, which seems like there's a good discussion about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, nothing further.
Okay. Andy, please.
Well, there's a lot to digest here.
Yeah.
This is no knock on the Board of Zoning Appeals, but they've put us in quite a quandary. We've already got an approval and a conditional use application that's been granted for a site directly across the street for a car wash. Now we've got this site's been approved for a car wash, and then we have another site right down the road that's been approved for a car wash. And the sheets issue is not completely out of the picture at this point in time, at least as to my understanding.
Correct.
And they have a car wash. Okay, so I just don't understand what the thinking behind the conditional use granting of these businesses in such close proximity. All you have to do is look at Zappy's on Menor Avenue, Heisley Road. How many times do we have traffic backed out for a significant distance on Heisley Road, or onto Menor Avenue, I should say? And how many times do they have to come out and put a closed sign to block traffic from coming into the car wash? So I'm very skeptical about any traffic analysis that says it's not going to be a problem. Look at the location, look at the proximity of the entrance into the car wash and the closeness to Cryle Road. I would venture to guess that we're going to have traffic backed up on Cryle Road if this goes the way it says, the way I think it's going to go. I don't like the idea. I just think it's a bad idea. I think that the traffic is a major concern for me, a major concern, and I don't see that being alleviated. And I think that and I can't speak to the other applicant and what their reasoning was for wanting to move to the other location on Old Cryle Road, but I can tell you that from what I understand, they were concerned about the traffic and an issue with congestion on Cryle Road and Gold Court. So now maybe including an ice cream stand, I don't know that would have a huge impact on that. There's quite a bit of distance there, but I'm not real clear that this is a proper use for this location. I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't like the traffic, and I don't care what anybody says. At the end of the day, we're stuck with it. Okay, we get it whether we like it or not, and if it turns into a traffic nightmare, I don't see how that's going to get alleviated. Are they going to come and close it down? No. Are they going to unbuild it? No. But we're going to be stuck with it. And if you travel Cryle Road and you try to do business on Cryle Road and you're sitting in traffic snarled and you're going into the center turning lane to get around the traffic jam, I just see all kind of safety issues. And I don't see this as a good idea. So that's a big problem for me. Something I just can't get past that.
Very good. Anything else? That's plenty. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Rich, please.
A couple of comments and a couple of questions. First of all, I'm a car nut, so you can't have enough car washes as far as I'm concerned. But my daughter and son-in-law live in central Pennsylvania in a town where they have a very similar car wash that they just put in. And it's got the 3 lanes merging into one in a conveyorized system. You would be amazed at how fast that moves through there. I went and got my car washed, and it was no problem. The traffic just moves very nicely. And when I look at Gold Court, you could have 10 cars there waiting to get in the car wash. You got another, looks like another 18 in line there. So I don't see that traffic as a problem. I disagree with Andy on that. I don't think it would be a problem. I deal with the Outback Car Wash on Route 20, and that is a problem because they have a very small apron in the front of the place, but I deal with that and they get them through there, and this is much more efficient. What I would like to ask is, what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operations are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, I assume you have blow dryers at the end of the line, the big ones that go up and down?
So, a good question. The tunnel is 120 feet long from front door to back door.
Right.
There is an air dryer system. There's 6 or 7 or 8 components that do different things on your car wash on the way through.
Okay.
The third to last one, about 25 feet plus or minus from the door, is where those dryers are. So you
Okay.
are correct. There's an air dryer about 25 feet short of the exit door.
Right, and that's what I'm familiar with. And how noisy are those? I'm concerned with noise levels by the hotel down at the end there.
Noise is a tough thing to relay. I could tell you, there's been studies done on car washes. Our equipment supplier has done studies that show 67 to 76 decibels. What does that mean to anyone in this room?
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Not a lot. A landscaper running a lawnmower is in the 80 to 85 to 90 range.
Right.
So it gives you context that the traffic that you hear going up and down Route 44, normal freeway, not freeway like 90, but normal roadway traffic is in the same the same 70 plus or minus that they foresee for this.
And you're closed before 8 a.m. and after 8 p.m. anyhow, so the
Correct.
noise shouldn't be a big factor there. The bay doors are typically closed. Well, the internal machinery, not much noise, right?
No, the bay doors, they are open during the car wash. One thing to note about the dryers inside the car wash, those only kick on once the vehicle gets to that stage. So once the vehicle gets past that stage, they'll kick off. So during times that is not peak hours, the car wash is slow, now cars are not going through, that those dryers will not be going at that time. So obviously that noise would not be coming out.
What is the typical time duration into the tunnel, through the tunnel, coming out the other end? How long are you in there for?
We'll back it up and say from pay station, because that's
Okay.
where we really are concerned about the backup, right? The traffic is our most concern. And when I say traffic, it's not the traffic on site. We want congestion on site because that means they're active and they're doing business and they're functional. We want to make sure traffic doesn't end up on Gold Court. I'm going to correct you and say the goal is not to have any traffic on Gold Court. I know there's room for it, and I know it keeps it from Crow Road, but that is not our design goal at all.
Yeah.
So 3 to 4 minutes from gate going up to working your way through to spending 2 minutes going through. So usually a minute to get around and a couple minutes to get through. So even if it's 4 minutes to go from when the gate goes up to where you're exiting and they're drying your vehicle.
I've read your customer reviews online for the Menor facility, and they're all generally very positive. Customers are satisfied, the time going through, the cleanliness of the car. So it seems, based on customer reviews, and there's always a bad one in there, but for the most part, customers are very satisfied with the facility, and it looks to me like a nice operation. And it's very similar to the one near my daughter's in Pennsylvania, and I know the people there like it. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Rich. Maybe we've had comments from the members here. Maybe we can go to the design review before we take it a step further.
Can I just offer
Please, John.
So the concern or the comfort that there's plenty of room for another 10 cars on. The reason we have 3 to 5 employees on staff, and we've learned this from the Menor facility. Part of the luxury we have is we've run the Menor facility for almost 3 years now, so we know how to fine tune things, what works, what doesn't work. The Menor facility is a little larger than this one. There's more traffic in that area. It was designed to be a longer facility, but once traffic gets to a point where it's interfering with, in this case, it would be the intersection of Gold Court, not Cryle Road. Staff goes out, puts up a cone, and doesn't allow anyone in.
Okay.
What's nice about this location, if that's on Cryle Road, what's someone gonna do when they realize they can't go to the car wash? They're gonna pull into another commercial business, do a 3-point turn, back up and come around. And it's not an ideal situation. They're gonna be frustrated. They're gonna go down and try to find the quickest spot to turn around because where they wanted to go isn't available. On this location, if they're coming in and the cone is out, or even if they're coming in, everyone's in a hurry, if there's too long of a line, they will pull down to the cul-de-sac, safely navigate the cul-de-sac, and loop right back out on the Cryle Road. So we won't, the cul-de-sac and the short road is an advantage to those types of bypass customers. It does not happen that often. The Menor site, they can probably count 3, 4, 5 days a year, and it's those sunny days in February and March or even in January where the lines get so deep where they have to put the cone up. Zappies is absolutely an issue, so that's responding to the Gold Court and the traffic. There is no intention to have cars waiting to turn right into having the traffic back up out onto Gold Court, and that's part of the reason they have the amount of employees they have there. Zappies is absolutely an apples to orange comparison. No one, we've had that reference brought up in 3 or 4 other presentations we've done similar to this, and the amount of stacking and the design on that site versus the amount of traffic that's on Menor Avenue at that location versus what I just described, what's their fail-safe? What happens when traffic just leaks out onto Menor Avenue? It's a disaster. If the employee's snoozing here and 2 cars make it out onto Gold Court, it is not what we're going for. But if that were to happen, because there's human beings operating this, what's the worst that happened? Someone going down Gold Court has to pass someone just like they would if there was someone pulled over to the side of the road to take pictures. So it's not ideal, it's not the way the roads are designed, but it's a reality. Things happen when you drive down a road. We don't expect that to happen at this site, but the comparison to Zappies is absolutely an apples to oranges comparison. And that's where, I have a lot of data that I could present to you. It'd be really boring, but relative to available vehicle stacking at various sites and the amount of traffic that are on various roads and the amount of traffic on Cryle Road is significantly, to the residents of Concord, it's very important, it's very busy, especially compared to what it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. But the reality is the amount of traffic on Cryle Road is less than half of what it is on 615 in Menor, where we've been operating a similar facility. So we have a good sense based on that facility. I agree with you. You could do all the engineer reports, all the traffic engineer reports, all the stormwater. The proof isn't in the report. There's a certain level of trust you have to have. If there's anyone who should know it. But the reality is, and this is where a practical engineer will agree with you, the reality is the proof is in what happens, what kind of results do we have 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. And by having the facility in Menor, it's really allowed us to really understand what we can expect for a facility just like this.
Is the facility in Menor a true comparison to what we're proposing here in Concord? Do you really, is that, you're talking apples and oranges, okay, with Zappies and your
Correct.
Operation, okay? Is that a fair comparison? Do you really think that where the classic auto wash is on 615 there, and where it's located with the property that's available, that you consider that to be a fair comparison?
I do. And
you use that. You think you can use that as empirical evidence of what you're saying is going to be true?
I absolutely do. The only difference between the 2 sites, and this is a real advantage to the Menor site, which we use to do a lot of our learning from, Classic uses to do a lot of their learning from, is that they have public road, Fracci Court, public road. They have, if this site has, I don't know what the distance is, 500 feet plus or minus from our drive apron to 350 feet plus or minus from, I think the cul-de-sac's 550. So if it's 350 feet from Cryle Road to our drive apron, that site might have triple that. But from experience, I can tell you that cars have not backed up. We have the ability to stack. There's very little traffic going down Fracci Court. It does just like it does here. It goes 200 feet past our site. There's a couple small residences or commercial businesses on it. There's a cul-de-sac, and it loops back out. A very low traffic road, similar to Gold Court. Gold Court has development on it, but the reality is it's a very low traffic volume road. So I do believe they are very similar. Gold Court and Fracci Court function very similarly. On that site, I can say from experience, I can tell you that we don't stack 10 cars out in the Fracci Court. That site has the queuing and has the driveway very similar to this one that allows that site to stay on, that allows that traffic for the car wash to stay on site. So I truly do believe that they are apples to apples.
Thank you, John. Let me move on to the design review. I know we're going to have more comments as we move forward here, because I understand you have a change in the design.
There we go. All right. First thing I want to talk about is the site lighting. Basically, the proposed site lighting design consists of the LED lights mounted on 14-foot high poles throughout the site, basically based upon the building being underneath 50-foot tall. All the perimeter LED light pole fixtures have what's considered a type 2 optics on them that basically allow the light to throw forward but not throw backwards, basically thus making sure that there is no light that goes over our property lines. I know there was a concern with the lighting designed underneath the pay station and the vacuum canopy of being a pendant type light fixture. We are actually going to change those out to a fully recessed light fixture to obviously comply with the section 37.06. Also, we obviously feel that will provide a cleaner look as well. So we're addressing that concern that was in the report. I'll go to the landscape. We have obviously updated the landscape plan. Basically, there were some comments on that. So the first one regarding along Corral Road of making sure that we had basically the required 2-foot mounds. So that has been fully revised to include those mounds. Also on the site plan, there's additional trees and plantings that added into the interior of the site per the report. And also too, we have also added an extensive amount of trees and plantings along the south property line and also along the east property line as well. The thought was basically on the east property line was to add the additional trees, so that's basically to help provide some screening between the car wash property and the Holiday Inn Express. Also to help as cars are exiting the car wash, obviously in the hours, because obviously with them operating from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., come obviously from winter months with it getting a little bit darker stuff. At least if people have headlights on, that those headlights would not be shining over and to the Holiday Inn Express property. That the trees will help to screen all that. Also, too, we acknowledge that along the south side of the building that we obviously do not comply with having the 5-foot planting area, and we are going to request a variance for that. Basically, in lieu of providing the 5-foot planting area, we have provided a larger landscape area along the entire south property line that basically consists of grass and trees. Basically, if the parking area was to be shifted 5 feet to the south, it would take away a larger area than would be added along the south side of the building. We're basically trying on the site to maximize the amount of green space on the site to basically maintain true of what's there along the south property line today. And that's kind of the site lighting and landscape. I don't know if you have any questions on that before we turn into the building design.
I just have one. We've talked about the proximity of the driveways. So now you're going to put a tree that could hinder sight lines between exiting and entering cars.
Back. Hold on, he's got the thing back, pulled back up. Yeah, and we'll make sure too that all the plantings are back far enough that there will not be that issue. So if there are currently shown on there, we'll make sure that those get pulled back.
Okay. Any other questions on the landscape from the board? Okay. No.
Okay. Any questions on the site lighting?
No.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Well, jump into the building design. Oops. All right. Okay. The exterior, obviously up on the screen, is our new proposed rendering of the facility. As you can kind of see, looking at that, and I can to jump kind of in a little bit further to the elevations as well, a little bit better. Maybe a side view would probably be the best to look at. Okay. So what we've done, on the original drawings, there was a dark gray masonry wainscot along the entire building. We have now changed that out to a stone, which would be a cream buff color, that will tie into the stone that is on Verizon and the adjacent shopping center as well. Also, we have seen that we have extended the stone up higher on the tower feature to help to emphasize the tower feature. As you can see there in the elevations, that now goes up higher. Before that, the masonry wainscot was just the same height as it was underneath the windows, but now when we changed the stone, we have carried it up higher as well. Next things you look on the elevations, the white ACM metal panels that we originally had shown, we are now changing those out to a terracotta and a warm gray, basically color to basically comply with section 37.05. The terracotta color, basically would that be what the terracotta would look like, and that's would be what the gray panels would look like. Also then on the elevations, the red accents and the gray metal roofing on the building and the vacuum canopy, those have been revised to charcoal gray. Basically the charcoal gray is the same color of metal roofing as over on the adjacent shopping center. We know on the adjacent shopping center is kind of pop-ups very often. It has like a charcoal gray standing seam metal roof on it, so which that would be the same color and it would tie in with that area. The next thing is originally we had a continuous roof from one end of the car wash, basically kind of canopy going all the way over the building. As you see, we have now changed that up and taken the middle section out of it. The canopies that we have are actually a fully functional canopy, kind of canopy slash roof, as the one as you go into the car wash entrance helps to protect the vehicle before it enters into the tunnel. Also too, there is during the entire day, there is a car wash attendant that stands out there to help to make sure that the cars are lined up with the conveyor as they go through the tunnel. And then as we have the canopy extending out to the exit of the car wash, as John mentioned, that there are, as each cars do come out, that there is an attendant there that will wipe off the mirrors, takes and folds the mirrors back out and finish wiping, so that kind of helps to protect them as well as they're standing out there all day long. The other thing to note on the exterior elevations that the aluminum storefront framing, we have changed from a clear anodized aluminum to a dark bronze anodized, which will help to kind of keep that more warmer scheme and tie things in. I feel the clear anodized would kind of stand out, and that the dark bronze will keep with that the warmer scheme we're looking for. Also, one thing too, on the tower, the original drawings had the top of the tower were illuminated panels. We have now removed those, and we'll have the gray ACM metal panels up on top, so the top of the tower will not be lit at all. Overall, as we feel with the changes that we've made, that it now meets the intent of the code based upon adding the stone to the building, removing the masonry, and then obviously getting rid of all the white panels and the illuminated panels, and then changing up the roof line as well.
Okay, thank you. I guess I have to ask Heather, this is the first time you're seeing these? We just got this resubmittal?
I saw a draft version of this revision. This is the first time seeing it with all the canopies and everything, with the new colors proposed on there.
So staff hasn't had time to review?
We've discussed it informally a little bit. We talked about some of the options on like they were going to do the concrete, the block at the base, and we talked about maybe adding stone, which it looks like they've come back and proposed that to try to match some of the other buildings. I did notice just on the sheet here, I still see some references to real red for like bollards, and it still shows illuminated panels.
Yeah, that stuff has all been deleted off of there. I think the architect hadn't yet fully updated that schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, but it'll be, at this point, the only red that would be on the building would be the signage on the building. That would be it. And that there will not be any true red colors on the building. The bollards of all would tie in with the warm colors of the building.
Heather, what's the concern with the canopy over the pay station?
It's a setback. In the BX district, all of the building and structures have to keep it at the same front building setback from the right-of-way, which is 50 feet. Being a corner lot, it does get challenging. It's not the entire building, obviously, that needs a variance, just the canopy.
And it just kind of ties in nicely with the other arcs over the vacuum station and the main entrance, it just kind of goes together.
Right.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
plan to go in and get a variance for that canopy.
Okay.
Because having the canopy there is very good for the customers as they come up to as they're coming to the point of sale stations, that they always have a covered area.
Yeah.
And as obviously said, those will be lit at nighttime as well, so when you get the wintertime, a little bit darker time, at least you'd have light at that area.
Yeah, I think it looks nice too.
And as we said, we feel too that it is not a physical piece of the building, that canopy is separate, it's not tied.
Yeah.
It's more of an accessory structure that's.
Okay.
I have a question on the elevations. Are these are the old lights that
Those
you're
are the old lights,
proposing?
yeah, they didn't
So,
update those, so like I said, so we will have it is a fully, it's pretty much the picture that we're looking at is almost a round, kind of a small round tube. It's an LED strip that would get tucked up into the framing, so you would never see any of it hanging down at all.
and then did the sign company update this to
Yes.
eliminate the illuminated panels?
That's correct, the illuminated
Okay.
panels have all been deleted out of there, and then I know with talking with Rough Neon, that the signage that is now on the building, that does meet the code for square footage.
It's the same one that we reviewed
Correct.
for the staff report,
Correct.
right? Just now eliminating the illuminated
That is
panels?
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Can I ask if there was a site selection analysis done? How did you arrive at this site? Were there any other sites considered?
You should defer that over to.
Jim Brown, 42999 Burton Trail in Gates Mills. No, I just drove down the street, I saw the property. It seemed like a perfect fit. And made a phone call to Rick Osborne, and he made a phone call to the owner of the property, and we have it under contract. And that's it.
Appreciate your
We came here
candor.
praying to
Thank
you all to
Very good.
help get this done.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more
Oh,
question?
no, actually,
Kurt.
stop. Yeah,
So,
please.
since we're still on design review then, so the sign package still shows some of this classic red that was proposed initially. Would you be looking at updating the red to match something with the new color scheme for the instructional signs?
We could definitely
and-
do that. There's a concern, obviously,
just-
with having the red as kind of some of this, they're sort of the corporate signage identity, as we are definitely aware that's within the shopping center and and Verizon stuff that they do, obviously, in their signage have their kind of corporate identity colors, and they're obviously being red and white and other colors as well, so definitely if there is a large concern, that we are more than willing to work with the township and the board to change those if needed.
I would just add, maybe the zoning board would want to just take a look at the building design versus the signs that are proposed and make sure that you're good with the colors and I guess meshing. Because we for the design review, we do want consistency throughout the site, between the different elements. So just bringing that to the board's attention, then I guess to take a look at that.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate that.
And just one more thing on this. So some of this still has the old color scheme, obviously. So
Yeah, that
this
would
would be updated to
Yes.
show the new.
Yes.
Okay. Guess it would be good to know which things would be updated versus what would remain, as is. So some clarity on that.
Is there anything else you wish to present about the project, either site or design,
Not at this time.
anything? Just to offer some comment, for me, I have a certain level of discomfort because of the other conditional uses that are on the record. I have a discomfort that the Lake County engineer is not satisfied in terms of, I understand the empirical evidence and all of that, but we're here to, they're our eyes and ears, they're our agent, looking for their approval. And if there's concerns they have on the traffic, the congestion, but I guess I don't know if this is a legal question, something for the board, and I don't know if it's first come, first serve. A conditional use is granted a year ago for a car wash across the street, but this applicant's in before them for this project. Is there a grandfather? Is there, can that conditional use still be honored? Are we honoring a conditional use after that one was granted for the same type of use in that close proximity? Because obviously with multiple uses, the traffic will be a problem. We're already concerned it is with just one, let alone two. I don't know what I'm thinking about that.
We have the conditional use that's done by the BZA. This application was done first. So wouldn't that be more concerns for the second application with the traffic than the first application we received with traffic? Because we have not received that application for that second one, and we're talking about this traffic. So I understand us thinking ahead, but wouldn't that be the concern then when you're talking about first come, first serve?
I understood.
I don't know if that.
Because a property owner or a parcel is granted a conditional use doesn't mean they use it. Does that make sense? They could still go to a permitted use. If there's
Correct. There's nothing that,
proposed, right?
yeah, I mean, someone could get a conditional use approved and then never move forward.
Right.
Or decide
Okay.
to do something else there.
So that we understand BZA gave a conditional use down the street at Old Crowell,
Right,
much larger parcel.
correct.
If that happened, we would have to do a site review for that, and we'd have the ability to turn that down. Kind of like, suppose we once approved the Hilton Hotel on this whole
Right.
court. The time has passed and such that Heather tells me that if they still want to build a Hilton Hotel, they've got to come back and get our approval again. We don't have to grant that approval, but they have to come back again. So it would seem to me that if somebody else wanted to build a second car wash, they'd have to come back to us, and we wouldn't have to grant that approval. Is that correct?
Well, if it met all of the criteria,
Well,
you would need to grant the approval.
would we have to, my understanding is we wouldn't have to approve the hotel again, right? Or would we?
Well, for the hotel, yeah, the hotel is a permitted use.
I know that.
So, right, so as long as the site plan met all the criteria of the zoning resolution and all of your review criteria, then you should approve it, yeah.
But if we felt that it was redundant to have two car washes opposite each other conditionally, could we not block a second conditional use as a zoning board?
Yeah,
Could we?
that's probably a good legal question.
So we just did that with Sheets and it's being challenged, right? We're granted a conditional use, we rejected it, and they're appealing. They're going through a process.
Correct.
And what you say, there's no time limit then? From the time they file and are granted a conditional use?
So
If they
it's
don't-
my understanding that the conditional use is not, until the minutes are approved and the time frame for anyone to appeal that, it could still be subject to appeal. Because with any conditional use or variance, there's an appeal process that an aggrieved party can file with the court, is my understanding, so.
As we're talking about these conditional uses with the car washes, are your guys' concerns, and I'm trying to understand the other sides of it too, that it's two car washes, or are your guys' concerns the traffic because of two car washes?
Yes,
Traffic.
yes.
So if it's,
No, I'm answering yes to both your comments.
so it's a car wash and the concept of a traffic.
Correct.
Okay. So I was gonna say the concept of a traffic, that would be something we could not approve for the second application if they do not follow proper protocol for traffic onto the street.
Control, yeah.
The traffic control situation.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
But we could not disapprove a second application just for the principle of a car wash, but we could for the traffic control part of it, which would fall under the second application's dilemma, not the
It would
first
seem to me we
application's.
could if there was logic behind it.
Traffic.
Okay. I don't know.
There's, can't speak for Andy, but I'm agreeing both car wash as well. Do we need 47 car washes in Concord all
Sure
over?
we do.
Some people think that, yeah. I don't
So
see the value.
I don't
in it.
see the value that it brings to our community. That's
You can only use one. You don't have 47 cars to wash at one time.
Yeah.
There you go, the best one.
Yeah. So there are variances to work through. There are building redesigns that we just saw for the first time. There is issues regarding the outstanding with Holiday Inn regarding shared access. Before I kind of move this forward a little bit, would the applicant be interested in tabling this till we have a little more time to digest all this, review it, discuss? We don't have legal representation here this evening as well.
That's one of the things I would want, not only what we discussed this evening.
I wouldn't mind seeing I'd like to see the traffic study too. I'd like to see some more information on this. I'm not, and that would have been my recommendation, would have been to table this to the next meeting and have an opportunity to review some more documentation on this.
And be mindful, tabling doesn't mean, still comes back, we still have discretion to consider this, but right now, I'm not comfortable given several outstanding issues, and just seeing design plans this evening, half an hour ago. Would you be interested in tabling this?
Yes. Yes.
So I don't have a lawyer present. What is procedurally, if just a record, we don't need to take any action other than accepting the applicant wishing to table.
I think,
The project.
yeah, right.
Well,
sorry.
I don't know that the applicant wishes to table at this point, but I think that the board is asking, and I think we can act unilaterally on that. I think it's a good idea, but I wouldn't want to put that on the applicant's shoulders. I think that this is more being driven by us than it is from the applicant.
I agree.
And I think
brought it
I
up.
think right, but I think there's merit in the fact that they're willing to do that. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and the small amount of time to review the architectural, the major design change is to be understood. So if we're going to move in that direction, I just want to make sure we clearly understand what we can try to do
Right.
to assist everyone to best answer questions
Right.
or quell concerns, or maybe raise a red flag. I don't know, but we want to make sure we do everything possible. So before we get to a point where something's formal and closed,
I think that's very fair. I
Okay.
think that's a very fair request.
Thanks.
I would agree. So I don't know if we have to take a motion to ask them to table, or we're just for the record indicating that we are asking the applicant to table and they've agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we need a motion as
No.
long as the
Okay.
applicant
Give
and
them-
both the zoning commission agreed to table, but I think they're looking for a little bit more direction on what they can work
So
on.
Right.
we're asking to table to get more information on traffic.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything, but the keys are the traffic patterns. Look at the new color scheme, and then as well as some of the updations with some.
Well, I think this
excess
tower. I
red.
think this tower
Is
tower on the building is an issue too with the multi-sided advertisements. I mean, that tower, from what I can see, is pretty substantial, and it's probably rivaling the Verizon sign on the pole directly across the street from that. And we've got quite a bit of complaints about that. And I would personally like to see something done with this tower, knock it down, maybe reduce some of the signage on that tower. I think that's a major issue. So that's,
That comment, I can't disagree.
yeah, I mean, that tower is as tall, from what I can say, and I'd like to see the dimensions exactly to put that to the test, but to me, that looks like it's probably about the same height as that Verizon sign. And you know, I don't know that that's a very attractive component to this design. So I'd like to see that changed. Does it make sense? Am I making sense or not?
Yeah, you're, I
Am I
think
clear?
your specific concerns regarding the tower, we hear loud and clear.
Right, okay, good.
We want to make sure, you know, that we have the county engineer, traffic department involved in this discussion. I told you earlier, I don't like to put words in their mouth.
Right. No, and I agree.
That buys us time to
Sure.
cement what I heard clearly as no concerns on her end specific to Crowell and Gold. I want to have everyone, I want to have time to get to that to you before the meeting, so you have time to digest it.
Heather, let me ask you a question. What would be the likelihood of getting somebody from one of the agencies to come to the next meeting to discuss that? So we're not dealing with hearsay or anything like that. Have some
I don't know
comments
the
made.
likelihood, but I could ask.
Or maybe some
don't-
maybe some written documentation at least, at the very minimum, some written
Do
documentation.
you think that you would have that revised study to the county before the next
Probably, yes.
meeting, and then probably some feedback from Tracy
Yeah.
in regards to the updated study,
Yes.
and then possible, you know, maybe you'll have a conversation with Holiday Inn prior to that to explore that idea a little bit more.
A lot of the items that were outlined in the staff report can be further clarified.
Yeah.
Well, I think the comments from the staff are obvious. Okay, that's the easy stuff, right?
Well, but it was specific to traffic, so I
Right.
don't want to interrupt you, but the staff comments were specific to apron location
Right.
and traffic plates. So is there a different traffic concern than those two items? Because the amount of traffic coming from the car wash is a very small amount of traffic in terms of how much that affects, you know, the Crowell Road. So is there something else specific? Because the traffic engineer's here and having this information heard firsthand is very helpful for us to present that information. We can update the traffic report. You mentioned you wanted to see the report. We'll absolutely update the report to reflect the plates, I'm using a term that traffic engineers use, that are requested from the county. That can be done immediately. But is there anything else specifically about the traffic due to a car wash and the vehicles coming to and from the car wash?
I think my concern is just the overall traffic patterns and the flow of things that you know, anything that would address that would be helpful for me to review. So if there's anything you can produce in that regard, and I wouldn't mind. I think that it would also be important to get some sort of a response from the guys at Holiday Inn too.
Yes.
You know, to let us to get, you know, digest that as to what their thoughts are. I mean, right now we don't have a response. You didn't get a response back from them, and I appreciate the candor on that. You know, that you haven't had a response, and but I would like to kind of get, because there is some history there with regards to shared driveway. They were there was a proposal, I think, prior to that with the other hotel to have a shared driveway, and they weren't very interested in accommodating that request, if I recall. So I don't know what their. I'd be interested to hear what they had to say, because they weren't very favorable towards the shared driveway with the other hotel coming into Gold Court there. So I'd be interested to get their take on that. So, and that would be helpful if we could get that. And that gives you a little bit of time, you know, to get back with some sort of response, positive, negative, whatever. I would like to hear it. I think it would be helpful.
Kurt, do you think we could pass around maybe the samples that you brought? I mean, I know I wanted to see them. I don't know if the board wanted to see them.
And then from a procedural standpoint, does it make sense for us to request our application to be tabled? Does that make your procedural job easier?
It should, because it'll be entered into the minutes that you have agreed
We're
to.
requesting that it be, right, based on the discussion we've had here and based on the suggestions from the board, we're going to request at a certain point. I'm not formally doing that. I'm asking, is that a procedural way to do it? There seems to be no answer to that
Well,
question.
procedurally, I would say, if you didn't, I was going to make a motion to revise and resubmit anyway, because I'm not comfortable,
Understood.
because there's so many outstanding items.
Yes, it's more of a procedural
Yeah.
question. I didn't know.
Right.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I've counted different numbers of cars and I've heard different numbers. Before you hit the pay station, how many cars can be sitting in your lot before they hit the pay station, before they hit Gold Circle.
Correct, so we don't even want to worry about them hitting Gold Circle. The number I'm gonna give you is to keep our two-way drive access clean.
Right.
And that's 24 vehicles.
24.
3 lanes of 8 cars each, correct?
Okay, and then there's 3 at the pace. So if you
That's
there's
including the 3 who are paying. So
Who
the
are
3
paying,
customers
okay.
who are paying, and then 7 cars behind.
and how many are in the once you get past
there
about
could
how
be
many?
5 or 6 cars between there. It all depends, but that
Okay.
usually isn't where the
Did I miss that
holdup
number
is.
someplace here? Yeah. There's 7 there.
But
That's
there's
it. Okay.
it could be about, let's just say 5.
Okay.
It's harder to give
Okay.
a solid answer on, but
But
we
again,
don't
a
want
bona,
traffic in the drive apron,
So
let alone Gold Court.
a bona fide TIS would indicate the trip generation for this type of facility. So what traffic here is on Cryle is gonna change when this is here.
Correct, and that's always in the report.
I know, that's.
Okay, but you're just wanting it updated to reflect
Updated
those
to
plates.
reflect-
So housekeeping, we absolutely will do that. So,
Right.
yes, understood.
Right. And I think in the interim, again, Heather, we can consult to understand these conditional uses of across the street and down the street. Because this could impact any future consideration for another one. I don't know.
yeah.
Car washes.
Well, I think my question is that, from a sustainability standpoint and a usage standpoint, I mean, it's just like anything else. When you run into a scenario where we have Walgreens on one corner, Drug Mart on the next, or whatever, name the drugstores, across the street from each other. It's a competing business, right? And at some point, somebody's gonna go under, right? It's unusual for 2 businesses to sustain. And so what happens if somebody, and I don't wish any ill will on anybody, I hope everybody is successful and there's enough business for everybody to succeed. But if somebody goes under, what's the repurposing of a facility like that? What's the repurposing? Is it gonna turn into office space, or is it available to be, or is it gonna have to be demolished? And, you know what I'm saying? Is it a single, it's not like you're building an office complex,
Very
right, or
good,
retail.
very good, prudent planning question that any developer would ask for any site that gets developed. So your point has validity, and
Yeah, I just had, that's something,
Yeah,
that's
I
something
get
that,
it.
I mean,
Yep.
if one of these, if we put 5 car washes right down the street from each other, hey, let's survival of the fittest, right? And that's great, but then what happens to the ones that don't? And, if we're building a strip plaza with retail frontage or things of that nature, a building that's got multiple uses, somebody goes out, somebody moves in. The likelihood of if a car wash doesn't succeed, if I'm a business person looking at some potential business, I'm probably not gonna build another car, or take over a car wash that already failed, unless I had some really secret sauce that was gonna set me above everybody else. So then what happens with that, are we stuck with a vacant car wash, in that location? And then that becomes a major issue, from a community standpoint. So that's just food for thought,
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments before we probably let this item go?
And we appreciate your,
Appreciate the-
willingness to work with us on
Take
this, we
work with
really
us,
do.
table
We
it.
really do.
Get back.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Do we need a break?
Yeah, excuse.
5 minutes.
Better go fast, Frank.
Okay, we're back in session after a brief break. The next item on our agenda this evening is a work session to discuss possible zoning amendments. So,
This pile somewhere.
Heather,
Way down there.
given the fact that she tortured us with zoning amendment work the last 6 months, she wanted to add more pile of work to our plate. No, these are items that we should address. We've been talking about them, and she did tell us to bring our book. I'm looking around to see who brought their.
I've never been one to follow instructions, so I can't copy off you, Ed.
That's okay if you didn't
That's
bring your
okay,
book,
really.
'cause,
I don't have one
you
either.
know, I have mine over here, but if we don't dig into details, I mean, the point was not to dig into
The
too much of
point
the
was to
detail
ask
tonight.
Heather to introduce these potential zoning amendments and then gauge our pleasure, wishing to take on a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, the zoning resolution, as you know, is always fluid. You can always.
Yep.
it-
Yep. And I think prior to our meeting this evening, I had a brief discussion with Heather yesterday that we also were penciling in 2 more items, but let me defer this really to Heather to kind of overview these lists of zoning amendments. Heather, so ask you, please.
Yeah, sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I did put together just a very brief memo with some ideas. Some of these were kicked around previously already with the board where we maybe didn't take any action on them yet, and some of these are new things that have kind of come up. I know the first one on here has to do with like the review process for plan unit developments and RCD developments. With one of the most recent RCDs that was approved, there's some questions on, you know, if there's revisions to the plan after it's already been approved by the trustees for the district change, should those revisions maybe come back to the zoning commission again, and the trustees. Right now they just go back to the trustees for consideration. And with the PUD, the township does have the ability to modify that review process as they deem fit, obviously with legal taking a look at it, but it's not totally laid out in the ORC on how you have to deal with modifications to an already approved plan unit development or an RCD. So I had several months ago, we put together like that flow chart that kind of showed how those plans are currently reviewed and approved, and modifications to those plans based on the current zoning resolution. So that's something that we could take a look at. Just so you know too, we are still trying to narrow down, and I think we have a date for a joint meeting with all the boards to kind of.
Do we have any dates yet on that, Heather?
Right now, I have penciled in, after looking at all the trustees' schedules and legal counsel, we are looking at May 31st, which is the Tuesday after Memorial Day, in the evening or
Good.
early
Okay.
evening.
I wanted to make sure because
Yeah.
I am on the board of revisions,
Oh, okay.
and we are slammed.
Oh, okay.
And I am working 8 to 4 during the day, several days a week, all through May and probably well into June. So I would appreciate
Yeah.
something after hours, so
Yeah.
that way I, could take a breather.
Yeah. I think
What time of the day?
I think we were thinking evening, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't have it.
would be very helpful to me. I mean, it would help.
5 or 6.
Because I think this is a great idea. This is long overdue. I think it would be a wonderful thing to do, and I want to participate. So if there's anything we can do is, that can accommodate that, I would appreciate something after hours.
Yeah,
If we could do
yeah.
that, if we can do that.
Yeah, that was the trustees were hoping to have in the evening as well. So that right now it's just trying to figure out where to have it. We might end up doing it in here because the community center is not available, but we're going to look at some other places maybe too as well, where you could actually have a place to put your stuff out, because this really isn't conducive for all 3 boards. So just trying to find a place to have it at right now.
Holiday Inn conference room.
Oh, the Holiday Inn.
Quail Hollow.
Or the old cool.
Well, Quail Hollow's not open. Yeah, I forgot the Holiday Inn
Holiday
does
Inn.
have one. I've never been. I don't know how many
that's true,
people.
they do, don't
that
they?
I will have to look into that.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let us use that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Can I ask Heather then on number one, an example of which is the RCD there for the I forgot the Canterwood Farms.
Right.
That is an example. So, from my understanding, in the code, and even when you're getting revisions and they're substantial, what we're looking to do is maybe get some language that you can use to say this has got to come back to the zoning commission. Am I correct?
Well, if you recall, right after the district change was made and the original preliminary plan was approved, like a couple weeks after, the applicant was like, "Oh, we need to change things," and they tried putting lots on Morley.
Yes.
And then they tried
Right.
changing the layout, and that revised plan went back just to the trustees for approval. And I know there was some conversation about, there were some folks that thought, well, maybe it should also come back to the zoning board. Unfortunately, I think with the Villas of Canterwood RCD, because everyone agreed at the time of rezone that they could count their stormwater basins as part of the open space, they've kind of taken advantage of that. And so now we're trying to deal with that from a how do we revegetate that. But I think with the latest amendments that we just made and that are going to be in effect this Friday, anything new moving forward with that environmental restoration plan component, that really prevents that kind of stuff from happening in the future. But in addition to strictly just stating that the stormwater basins can't be in the open space, with those amendments, that we should not see any problems like that. But say they want to change the layout significantly, should that also come back to the zoning board for a look before, or in lieu of going back to the trustees? Right. Is it both, or is it just one? Or so we could take a look at what some other communities do in that respect, or we could do nothing with that right now.
Well, I would definitely support something. In fact, I didn't even propose a revision to the code that I gave Abby.
Yeah, I have that printed out. I didn't look at that.
That's okay. I'm just saying.
And those are some things, yeah.
Support us, the board, considering this potential amendment.
Right. I know you had some questions about process as far as the site plan review coming back, but I didn't, in your email, I didn't think that you addressed
Maybe not
under
that.
the
Okay.
PUD or CD specifically,
Okay.
so, but I can see how you would,
Yeah. Okay.
but. So I can just kind of go through these and then you guys can.
Okay,
I mean,
please.
I don't
Okay.
know if I don't know if we need to know if we need to make decisions now or just if we need to think about some of these. The next one, and this one had to do kind of piggybacking on the map amendment with Concord Preserve and the Town Hall neighborhood. Just so you are aware, the trustees did vote to approve your recommendation on the rezone of those 6 parcels, the 6 acres from Town Hall neighborhood to R1. That will be effective this Friday. So that leaves us with 10 acres left of approximately 10 acres of Town Hall neighborhood. And if you remember, the Lake County Planning Commission, with their recommendation to rezone the initial 6 acres, was to consider also then rezoning the remaining Town Hall neighborhood district to R1. So we could take a look at, do we, that Town Hall neighborhood district, is it still a district that we want there, or do we need to change that to something else? So that could be another project to look at and work on. Next would be maybe taking a look at some of the table of uses for some of the commercial districts. With the Capital District, knowing there were some recommendations in the Town Center Master Plan from Reisinger that we maybe make some modifications to the uses that are listed under the Capital District and also in the plan development that is a conditional use under the capital district, we might want to take a look at those uses and see if we, what did the master plan say as far as what amendments that we might not have done yet, maybe eliminating some of those uses or adding in other uses. A couple years ago, we talked at a work session about maybe taking a look at the commercial district that's allowed under the PUD. Where Hunting Lake Drive now intersects with Cryle Road, just north of Drug Mart, there's 2 outlots that Quail Developers Inc. platted when they put that new road in, and those are slated to be commercial pieces of the PUD. And when you look in the PUD section of the zoning resolution, it has a very specific list of uses that they could put there, and they're all conditional uses because they made the commercial center in a PUD a conditional use. But I would think that we might want to go back and look at that list of uses. A lot of them, we don't define those uses. There's no definitions for them. So we could take a look and see how they kind of correlate with our other uses within the other districts. Maybe we need to add some, maybe we need to delete some, maybe we need to come up with definitions.
Okay.
Is that where that big for sale sign is? That property? Was it right along the crowd there?
No, right at where Hunting Lake intersects with Cryle.
Yeah, just the
So
side
on
of
both
it.
sides,
Well, there's a
left
big
and right.
for sale sign
He
there.
might have, he's got a bunch of real estate signs up
Okay.
right now, probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's commercial property or something. it
Probably,
says.
yeah.
Okay. Hard to sell when you don't know what you can build, right?
Well, there's lots of uses he could do there. I just don't know. In talking with the owner, and just so you know, those 2 lots are in the JED as well. So if and when they do get developed, they'll also be participating in the JED.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to review just conditional uses in general for some of the districts overall.
I think that's what you're suggesting.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, and maybe some of them don't need to be conditional. Maybe they need to be permitted.
Well, we already see that, we
with
already see the slippery
stipulations.
slope in some of the things we get ourselves into with conditional uses and them being granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. You know, I'm quite frankly, I'm a little irritated with what we got saddled with on these conditional use grants. You know, I mean, we got stuck with making decisions on, you know, putting multiple car washes in a very small area. I mean, we could have taken a little different tack on that.
Right. However, if they were permitted, you know, this would be good things to talk about in these work sessions with legal counsel. Then if you had the same scenario and they were in car washes were permitted uses, you know, do you have standing to deny one based on one being right there? I mean, you'd have to find something like, you know,
But
that
to
really
me, it seems like the applicants
really give
get,
you proof that it didn't, you know, that it was a hazard to the area or met or
Right.
didn't comply with one of the general criteria under section 36, harmonious with the community.
well, and that's the
Yeah.
issue that the thing I see as a problem is that the applicant gets the distinct message or feeling that if they get the conditional use, there's really nothing we can do other than just go along with their decision, and that I think that there's a problem there, and I think that there might be a perception that conditional use just means it's just allowed, and from a zoning commission standpoint too, and I don't know that that's a good idea. I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think
That might
it's
be a
problem.
topic to talk about at this
Right.
this work session.
Oh, yeah,
too,
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
You know, the
Yeah.
pro con of doing a permitted use versus
Right.
a conditional use. I mean, conditional use could be revoked, you know, where a permitted use couldn't be, you know,
Right.
if it became an issue like the Starbucks and the Chipotle keep spilling out on the Cryle Road, if that became like a really bad traffic hazard concern, accidents and things like that, the BZA could technically, you know, relook at that. But
Right.
It'd be different if we had a comprehensive plan that said Concord needed to brand itself as the car wash mega of Lake County. And then we'd have them everywhere.
And I've seen some communities do permitted uses with stipulations, so then it doesn't go to the other review agency, like, or not even stipulations, but with with specific standards. So you could have other uses that are technically permitted in that district, but have separate standards that they would have to comply with, and then they would still come to the zoning commission for, review, plan review. So rather than going to BZA for conditional use, you could say you could have a drive-through could be a permitted use, but you still have to meet all this criteria, and it could mirror technically what you have under your conditional use.
Thank you, Heather. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4?
Signs. We need some revisions to our sign resolution. There was a complete overhaul, that the township hired and worked with a consultant, and I think that was updated in 2014. But since then, there's been some new case law made, and we have not had the opportunity to tackle some of this. But the goal would be to take a look at our sign resolution and to remove any references to content of the sign. So you can't regulate signs based on the message that the sign says. So we'd be looking at, I think our temporary sign regulations, I see a lot of this depending, we refer to real estate signs, political signs, garage sale signs, and really we should be identifying those as like yard signs and setting limitations on square footage and setback requirements and the number of them based on not what the sign says, but rather it is a sign that is permitted on a temporary basis on a residential lot, and you're allowed to have it for X number of days, has to be set back, but it does not matter if it says garage sale or house for sale or something like that. So, but there was...
Does your office receive complaints? Do you receive complaints about signs?
About temporary signs?
Temporary signs?
Sometimes, yes. There's a few residents that call and complain about, the little contractor signs, the power washing signs, this sign over there. And we pull those signs when we can. We have the authority, if they're in the right of way, to pull those temporary signs. We get calls on those all the time. We get complaints about political signs too, but we tend to not do anything with those unless it's a site obstruction where we'll approach the property owner and ask them to move it back.
Well, you
at
start
that intersection.
you start
Yeah.
to infringe on the First Amendment.
Yeah, even though we say that in the zoning resolution you can't put signs in the right of way, which would be applicable to political signs, we're not going to go out there and pull a political sign.
Aren't there legalities of political signs of how long they can and can't be, no matter what our resolution is too?
I'm sorry.
Legalities of political signs,
What about-
campaign law of how long a political sign is allowed out for a campaign.
Well, there used to be so many days after the election,
Oh.
you gotta take them
Yeah,
down.
there's campaign law.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How long
And we don't
political
enforce that.
signs.
Yeah.
And that's.
Okay.
I don't know the exact legalities of it, but I know if it got, instead of reported to the city, got reported to campaign people, it's actually fines
Oh, really?
for candidates.
So people that have like signs up from 4 years ago could be.
So that gets into some
Yeah.
interesting stuff because some of it's not technically from 4 years ago.
Oh,
Once, 2
okay.
years.
Because there's
Some of them are
house
putting
up
the year
road.
24 on it.
So there was a house up the road from here, and he still has election signs up that we were getting lots of complaints about from presidential election from however many years ago that was, that are still up.
Well, they're updating with new years now, so that's
Yeah.
a fuzzy area,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for majority of them, there are some campaign laws of signage.
Okay.
Was it you that?
Well, and that's obviously a legal issue,
Must've
so
been
anything we would
Yep.
do with signs would definitely be working with legal counsel on any of these amendments, but specifically with signs, just because
Okay.
they're.
Number 5?
Number 5, we have an existing section, oil and gas wells, in our zoning resolution. I don't believe it's actually, since I've been here, we've not enforced it. In looking at the Ohio Revised Code, we know that townships are not given the authority to regulate the location of any new gas wells, and this section of the resolution attempts to do that. So, we probably, I don't know that we've ever enforced it, but if it's something that we can't enforce, then maybe we should get rid of it.
$32.04.
I think it's
Section
starts at
32.
Like 32 at one.
32.04,
Yeah,
right?
It,
well, just section
It's all
32 in
32.
general, the whole section.
What's that?
This is asking someone who's going to start a new drilling operation to submit an application to the zoning inspector to allow that, and it actually sets distances for this new gas well to be located no closer than 300 feet to any building, which the Ohio Revised Code does not give the townships the authority to do that.
so
The only thing we could adopt resolutions in regards to gas and oil wells would be any new structure in relationship to an existing one of these. Just like when we were talking about with the one over on Concord Hamden, how close were those homes going to be to that existing well? We don't have anything on the zoning resolution. There are recommendations from the state. And we could adopt that if we wanted to, but this section currently works in the opposite way, which we don't have authority to do.
So would that be a question for legal? Because it does stay in here, the most stringent regulation shall apply at the very top in the purpose. So doesn't that say?
Well,
Ohio
ours would
Revised-
be the most stringent then, I think, but,
But the fact that Ohio Revised Code said you can't, wouldn't that make it the most stringent?
okay. Well,
don't know.
yeah, and if
I guess
that's
that would
the
be a
point, and
question
if
for
that's
legal.
true, then why do we have it in here? That was my, and that, maybe that's a simple question to legal, and they say, oh, yes, I would recommend you guys eliminate that. But, or no, it's fine, leave it in there. I'm on the position of if I'm enforcing the zoning resolution, if it's in here, I'd hope that we could actually enforce what's in here.
Okay.
Or if a subsequent zoning inspector were to come in and read this and attempt to enforce it, then are we subject to a lawsuit or something, So that,
Good point. Thank you. Number 6.
same thing, and the next section, this is an old section 33 that talked about the huge satellite receiving antennas, the dish type ones. This went back to 1986, so I'm just questioning whether or not this is something that we still need in here. Or is it still relevant in today's technology, as far as how things are moving away from satellite dishes?
No, they're not.
You don't?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I still see them on poles in the side yard.
Yeah, Dish
Oh, yeah.
TV is still very, very,
It's very popular.
I have dish.
yeah.
well, these are like
You
the
have
ones that I believe that are 3 meters, or how big are these?
Yeah, when you're talking 3
Yeah.
meters, that's
I
9,
think,
that's
yeah.
roughly 9 feet across.
Yeah.
The dish,
I
yeah,
have to
the
look
dish
again. Yeah.
dish antennas today are probably, 24 inches maybe
Yeah.
in diameter?
Yes.
Yeah, they're relative, but still, there's, so
Yeah.
maybe we,
I'll have to
address
look
the
at this.
size,
Yeah.
because 3 meters that's pretty substantial. I mean, that's,
And I, to be honest, I need to reread this again to,
sending signals to outer space,
Take a look at
looking
it.
for a reply.
Well, they used to be enormous at one time. Now they're like this.
Downsized.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, because I have several neighbors that have, satellite dishes on their property, some on the side of the house, some on the roof,
yeah.
some on the, some down in the landscape, some up on the, on the peak of the, they put them wherever they can get the best. Usually they're not placed by the homeowner, they're placed by
Right.
the provider.
You tell I told our supplier where I'd like to have it, trying to keep it hidden around like my shrubs and stuff.
Yeah,
And they went out there, he checks the signal to see if he can.
right.
Because if you can't get a signal, you can't. It's not wise to put it there.
Yeah, you're gonna put the satellite where you're gonna get your best signal.
Right.
So otherwise, it doesn't make a whole lot of
Doesn't make
sense.
sense. No.
So, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea to revisit it,
Well,
but I wouldn't say that it's completely outdated,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, okay. And I stand corrected, I was just rereading this, yeah, so this would not apply in a residential district unless it was 1 meter or larger in diameter, and then in a commercial district, 2 meters or larger in diameter.
Right.
Okay. And then, not on the list, but maybe something to take a look at is the wording in our lighting section under the commercial districts in 22. I think there's some, it was debatable. I have to say, I had a debate a little bit with Stephen Douglas Corp on the interpretation of the fixtures on the exterior of the building as to whether or not that was written as I was interpreting it. So although legal did confirm with me and then they did as well, but I think there's some wiggle room to maybe change the language, make it a little bit more clear. And then maybe we need to relook at, you know, the height, you know, is there a reason to limit it at 14 feet on a building that's 30 feet tall, as long as it's downward, and you know, maybe there's some new things to take a look at as far as lighting that we might want to do in commercial areas. One other thing that Rich asked me when we were talking about tonight's meeting is why we weren't doing design review in the RD2 district. And I wasn't around when we adopted, you know, site plan review and design review, but I do know that we don't do design review on a handful of the commercial and industrial districts. So I'm not exactly sure why we don't do that, but we may want to take a look at that and find, you know, do we want to do design review on all the commercial districts?
There was an issue all the time, if we had an architectural review board, that could be done. But we don't have one.
Okay.
Okay, because a lot of communities have that
Yeah.
to keep the aesthetics of their community, trying to keep it whatever, you know,
Right.
like go colonial or whatever, you know, because I know when you go to Hudson, for example, the homes have to be painted a certain color, shingles have to be a certain, you know, shutters and stuff to keep with the theme of the community.
Right.
And that's done by an architectural review board, which we don't have.
Well, and in fact, you guys are the architectural review board.
To some degree, yes.
The trustees have
Right.
given you that authority.
Right. We have design, the
Yeah.
reason I brought it up is
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the agenda for
Right.
Stephen Douglas, and Heather pointed out RD2 as well as
B1,
B1,
B2,
B2
and
are the only districts
I think BX.
that,
Yeah.
and BX, where
No, BX we
don't
do
have
require
design
it,
review.
yeah.
Required,
Yeah.
but we have design review for the car wash.
Yeah.
So I don't know, given some of your tenure here, so there might have been some recall of why perhaps we don't do it for those certain districts. Is it because they're removed from visibility, or they're not as visible to the interchange, or
That probably predates Frank.
Well, they were always talking about doing that, but they were worried about being too restrictive in the community. Or dictating to people when they were moving in, they couldn't make certain changes to their homes.
Sometimes I think the
exterior.
concern was it becomes a cudgel. If it's a business that maybe you don't like, or maybe it's an owner that you have an axe to grind with, and you suddenly become, you know,
use that as
use the architectural design as a club to beat them over the head, or to, you know, to exact maybe some.
But Classic is addressing it. They're addressing it as per design, per muted colors that's in the code.
Got rid of the red.
We're looking at that. Anyhow, I just brought it up for discussion because I was curious. We have design review everywhere else, but not a handful of 3-4 districts.
Yeah, they
Well, and
did-
that might be a function of like maybe some of the standards. I'm thinking about like the roof line over 100 feet in length, you know, without some kind of change in elevation or pitch. Like, so if you were building a warehouse or a light manufacturing facility in a large building, you know, is that something that we would want as a design standard to make them comply with, or would that be difficult to comply with? I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Yep, I agree.
I'm thinking about the uses
You're
that are
right.
permitted in some of these districts that we don't do design review. They're a little bit, warehousing and distribution and
Yeah, I think sometimes you put
manufacturing.
an unfair burden on the business.
I get it.
To try to
Okay.
accommodate.
But that's just an idea.
So it's general only in the business districts here. You said B1, B2, RD2.
You know what? Yeah.
Or that's something.
Actually, we don't, for some reason, we don't require it in the B1, because I was trying to look at the zoning map, sorry,
Oh.
as I'm looking at the, design
Bless you.
section. Because I was thinking it was more on the main corridors, which we do require it, you know, in the gateway business, which is basically on Auburn Road, north of Capitol Parkway and south, and then on Cryle Road in the BX, but, which is basically Cryle Crossing and then all of Gold Court, and then south of that where the BB Bradley is, and then it picks up again south of Hunting Lake Drive from where ZSI Manufacturing is all the way down to Girdle Road. But then we don't do it in the B1, which is where Gristmill Village is, and Friedel Drive, which is still as visible as those other districts. I don't know.
Okay, okay. Anything else, Heather, on that?
That's
list?
all I have jotted down for now. So I
Okay.
mean, I know we have a lot of things. You know, other, you know.
I think, just my cursory comment after seeing it before and what you just went through, I looked at the order you have it in as the kind of like, I think it's a good order, that perhaps we just tackle the first three and then move on rather than all at the same time.
Oh, come on.
Oh yeah, I would not recommend doing them all.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Maybe, well, it seems they're relevant to joint meetings with the other boards and such. The 1 and 2 and 3, and 1 and 2 and 3, really. It goes to procedure and process, uses, things of that nature. So it seems 1, 2, and 3 would, if everyone's agreeable, we can kind of put that on our job list, or Heather's job list and Marty's job list.
Is there a reason we dropped the signs? Didn't we do start signs? Like, I feel like I remember a PowerPoint packet that Heather created a year-ish ago about signs.
We talked about maybe doing it, probably.
Okay.
We never actually started it.
Oh, wait, so I thought I remembered like a PowerPoint that you printed off for us with a bunch of different signs.
I'd have to go back and look.
And then we got Verizon.
Oh, is that when we changed that to eliminate the height? That's what it was. Was that what? We did an amendment to the sign resolution on the height of poles of freestanding signs. So we did not look at the whole. We were just really tackling that one issue, Ashley, as far as the heights of freestanding signs in the commercial districts. We didn't go through the whole resolution and look at being content
Right.
neutral as far
Right,
as
you saw
temporary
what
signs.
was being the standard that would be used in different communities to have for us to look at when we were
Right.
considering that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we had
That's
gone
what it
around,
was.
That's
yeah,
what's
we
neat.
went around
Okay.
and looked at
Yeah.
what do we already have here too, and
Yeah.
what the heights of them, so we can make a better
Right.
idea of what would be appropriate as far as scale
Right.
on Cryle Road and other areas.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what it
Yeah,
was.
that's what you, yes, thank you.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was same or different a reason for
This is a
dropping.
little different, this is, yeah.
Okay.
So that was freestanding. So to Andy's earlier point, is the tower at the car wash freestanding?
Well, they made it part of the building,
They made it part of the building.
yeah. Yeah, those are technically wall signs.
Still visually obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's big. It will be big.
Yeah. All right.
Well, is there any objection to just moving on with the first three? Is
Sure.
kind of
I think the first three are the ones that we've been already
Great.
been hit with to
Great.
some degree that we want to get clarified.
great.
Big time.
So we'll make those action items then, Heather.
Okay,
3, okay. And then review the context, review those amendments, review the current code, so we get prepared.
okay.
So, okay, that kind of concludes our new business portion of the agenda. Any old business to bring before the attention of this body?
No.
This evening? If there isn't,
I have one thing I'd
Yeah.
like to bring up, Mr. Chairman, if
Please.
I may. I think that in reference to decorum for the zoning meetings, I think would be appropriate to make a comment about calling out specific board members on issues, disagreements, and things of that nature. I think that we can have our disagreements. I think we can be opposed to somebody's viewpoints without specifically calling them out by name. We can say that, you know, I think you can state your case. I think you can make your point. And I don't think that it's necessary to bring out your opposition to a specific board member's opinion. I think that's inappropriate. And I think that it creates a situation that could result in a confrontation. And I think that I just feel that was worth bringing up.
Any other comment to that? Well said. Can't disagree. It's one of these things, we're a unified body that agrees or disagrees in debates. And in the end, the vote's the vote.
Right.
Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. Thank you. Anything else under old business? If not, their next meeting, I am in Disney taking my grandkids. So I'm missing, I'm just chairing my first meeting and now I'm gone. So I apologize. We had this planned week. So I'll miss the next meeting of June the 7th.
Thanks, buddy.
Are you gonna be in town
That was
then?
quick, huh?
I
Didn't waste much time there.
didn't wait. I apologize, but then.
why
I
there's
won't be in
5 of us.
attendance for June 7th, so
Right.
hopefully.
Yeah, we all have personal lives too, you know,
Is
so
Hyman
we know.
is he the assistant or the vice?
He's
Or Rich
vice.
is the
Rich
vice?
is.
Oh, he's more than capable. You got nothing to worry about.
Right.
We got it covered.
Yeah, good. Very good. So if there's no other business, I'll have to take a motion, but I pretty much say if there's no other business, this meeting stands adjourned.
That's it.
Thank you. Well done.
Well done.
Hold on.